he's Fred. Life has thrown him off balance, as it does to everyone. But you have to start again. You have to reignite the engine. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, because everyone has their own mechanisms, beliefs, and experiences. Here's mine, based on 3 pillars: active nihilism, discovering your own demon; realizing it in moderation, but with enthusiasm. Fred asks me, "Who are you to teach me something?" I reply, "Give me 10 minutes of your time. I didn't invent these things. They're called Nietzsche, Aristotle, and Plato. I can assure you that the things these 3 thinkers said changed my life." 10 minutes, okay. Let's start with the first point. Nietzsche, after dismantling reason, religion, and science, and the subsequent collapse of Western society's values based on these 3 pillars, declares that man finds himself in a state of disorientation where the purpose of life and the future are missing. Sartre, as we saw in our last video, associates the image of nausea with the situation of modern man. That's why, Fred, you feel this way when they say that there are no more values and sense of life. The man who emerges from the disintegration of these values is one who has transcended the distinction between good and evil, firmly convinced of the death of God and the illusory nature of the quest for meaning. It's not merely about truths, but heralds the dawn of a new human archetype, an overman, diverging from the Platonic ideal. Nietzsche depicts this figure as a camel initially burdened with the weight of morality, then transforming into a lion to confront truth, and finally evolving into a child as the world reveals itself beyond rationality, disclosing the illusory nature of all things. Mastery lies in living with the awareness of these illusions, a feat only the Superman can accomplish. Fred, when one comprehends the illusory nature of existence and the absence of an afterlife, burdens begin to lighten, offering solace. At this juncture, Nietzsche outlines 2 paths: passive nihilism or active nihilism. Passive nihilism often leads to existential emptiness and despair, leaving individuals adrift without guiding principles. This, Fred, may resonate with your current state. However, active nihilism, a concept Nietzsche introduced in The Gay Science and further developed, presents a more compelling perspective. Active nihilism invites transformation and the affirmation of life, despite the absence of absolute values or transcendent meanings. In active nihilism, individuals embrace the inherent lack of meaning in the universe and human existence. Yet, instead of succumbing to despair or apathy, they harness this realization as a catalyst for creating personal values and imbuing life with significance. Rather than seeking predefined or transcendent meaning, individuals focus on constructing meaning through action and asserting their individual autonomy. Active nihilism entails a radical embrace of reality and a determination to live fully despite the absence of objective meaning. Individuals who embrace active nihilism are compelled to create their own meaning and value in life through acts of creativity, personal fulfillment, meaningful relationships, and the pursuit of experiences that bring satisfaction and individual fulfillment. In this sense, active nihilism can be seen as an opportunity for the affirmation of life and greater individual freedom. Here's the first step, Fred. Being an active nihilist. No one can deceive you with discussions about the meaning of life or religion, but that doesn't mean you can't give it meaning yourself. Shortly, we'll see how. But first, understand this. When you experience defeat or radical change, a period of self-reflection begins. However, I'm not in favor of excessive rumination or meditation. Reflecting means closing in on oneself, something that already happens heavily in times of pain or failure. I don't see why we should burden the situation further. True salvation lies in action. You must act, Fred, not dwell too much on it. What's happened is in the past. Let's see together how to proceed. Believe me, life only makes sense through what we do or are capable of doing. There's no other meaning beyond our actions. It's action that reveals who we are and gives us a purpose to move forward. Taking action boosts your morale and makes you aware of challenges and opportunities. Now that you're convincing yourself to be a nihilist because knowing there's no objective meaning to this life hurts less. Remember, things happen by chance. It's not your fault. But at the same time, you want to be active. You don't want to self-destruct. You want to act. Are you ready to take the future into your own hands, not waiting passively, ready to embrace your demon? Yes, you heard right, your demon. Wait, let me explain better. Daemon, a Greek word introduced by Aristotle, derives from the concept of happiness, called eudaimonia. Eu means good, and eudaimonia translates as the good outcome of one's inner demon. Each of us possesses an inner demon, but what does this demon represent? And what defines your virtue? Virtue in Greek refers to capability. What is your purpose in life? What drives you to choose one path over another? Have you identified your inner demon? If so, you must realize it to achieve your self-fulfillment, your eudaimonia. But how do you discover your own demon, Fred? The Oracle of Delphi, mentioned by Plato, has an answer. Know yourself. Without this awareness, how can you identify your inner demon? You must reflect on yourself. Understand your true essence. Too often, people live without self-awareness, focusing on others' goals rather than their own. This behavior generates alienation and escapes from reality during the weekend. But don't justify your actions by saying you wasted your life when you're older. Now is the time to act. Once you've identified your demon, Fred, try to realize it, but always in moderation, as the Oracle of Delphi advises, echoed by Plato. You, Fred, are an actor, but you may not be as skilled as Daniel Day-Lewis. Don't try to be as good as him or better than him. Assess your abilities. Place yourself where you are. Don't exceed the measure. Striving to be better than you can be is positive, but if you exceed the limit, there awaits your downfall. Know yourself and realize your demon within the limits of your capabilities. If you can do that, you will find happiness, because for the Greeks, the right measure is essential in everything, including beauty, derived from the correct proportion of elements. This concept stems from awareness of human mortality, which, according to the Greek view, is the ultimate measure of all things. When you experience pain, happiness, or strength, expand them within the measure of your abilities. And when pain comes, the Stoics said, substine, abstin, endure that pain with dignity, and try not to show it in public. Modern society has lost this awareness of the right measure, of dignity, desiring infinitely, and losing sight of the true essence of life. This transition, as we've seen from Nietzsche's video, happened with the death of God. But let's refer to the video in the top right. When you realize your daemon, the Greeks said to use enthusiasm. Of course, talking about enthusiasm now that you're feeling down isn't easy, Fred. Enthusiasm is a Greek word en, and theos, meaning there is a god within you. The Greeks believed that to create anything, art, poetry, images, sculptures, etc., to be creative, it wasn't you who was creative, but it was the god inside you who was creative. En and theos. There is a god inside you, which prompts you to say these things, and therefore these things are poetic and no longer belong to virtual language. To be creators. To be creative, it is necessary for the ego, which is rationality, which is the psychic structure corresponding to loyalty, to be set aside a little and let ourselves be flooded by the madness within us, which Plato says is divine. Plato once said, "The greatest gifts come from madness." Naturally, madness is considered a divine gift. Madness from the gods is far more beautiful than human reason. Now, had anyone else said these words, they might not have carried much weight. But coming from Plato, the very architect of Western thought, the inventor of reason itself, it's significant. He tells us that madness from the gods is far more beautiful than human reason. So it's important. Even Plato, who crafted reason, warns us, reason is a system for understanding, but creative acts don't stem from rational order. They come from an immersion in madness. This divine madness is a participation in the divine, and it's only in enthusiasm that something new happens. Because reason is nothing more than a set of rules by which we navigate understanding. The creative and poetic moment begins when you step outside of reason, when you break free, when you transcend these boundaries. Karl Jaspers, the eminent psychopathologist of the 20th century, remarked, "When we admire a work of art, we behave as if we were admiring a pearl, forgetting that the pearl is the shell's illness." Jaspers concludes, "Probably, without the schizophrenia of the author, without the author's madness, without stepping beyond the bounds of reason, that work of art would never have been born." Here's the path I propose, Fred. Nothing makes sense out there. There's no good or evil, no God. We're nihilists, but we don't close ourselves off. Let's try to act by realizing our inner demon, in moderation, because living decently and with a purpose is already a challenge in these times. I don't want to be Mandela or Gandhi. Let's embrace our demon with enthusiasm, striving to unleash that divine spark within us.